His silence isn't empty, it carries a weight most can't understand. It's the kind of silence that makes people wonder what he's thinking, what he knows, and why they feel slightly unsettled in his presence. This isn't your typical charisma, the charming, talkative energy that pulls people in. This is something colder, deeper, and more instinctive. Psychology refers to it as silent authority, a powerful phenomenon where someone exerts influence without exertion simply through their aura, body language, and emotional detachment. Sigma males embody this naturally. They observe more than they speak. They think before they act. And their emotional independence makes them immune to the chaos of social drama. People don't know how to categorize them. They're not alphas trying to lead, not betas trying to please. They're outsiders by choice, strategists by nature, and calm in a way that feels almost alien. It's no surprise that this unnerves others. Studies on nonverbal dominance and perceived threat suggest that people can feel uncomfortable when they encounter someone whose presence contradicts social norms, especially someone who doesn't try to fit in or compete. And yet, that same discomfort is laced with fascination. Some admire his mystery, some envy his control, others despise him, though they can't articulate why. The Sigma doesn't chase respect. He doesn't need to. His self-reliance and psychological depth make him impossible to ignore. So today we journey into his world, to uncover the 8 spine-chilling behaviors that define him, disturb others, and remind us that sometimes the loudest power is the quietest man in the room. Welcome to Brain Boosters, where we decode the psychology of the quiet disruptor. Let's begin. Number 1, he cuts emotion like a blade. Most men react, Sigmas calculate. That's the difference between a wildfire and a controlled burn. One rages out of control, the other is strategic, precise, and necessary. When provoked, the Sigma male doesn't flare up in rage or spiral into emotional theatrics. He studies, he processes. His mind shifts into analytical mode, not fight or flight, because for the Sigma, anger is inefficient. It clouds judgment and wastes energy. Panic, even worse. It's messy, unpredictable, and often exploited by others. Emotion to the Sigma is a vulnerability, an exposed wire that people can tamper with. So he learns early to contain it, not suppress it blindly, but manage it with razor-sharp control. Like a dam holding back a flood, his calm demeanor keeps him watertight, sealed against manipulation and chaos. And this, ironically, makes him dangerous in the eyes of those who thrive on emotional reactions. Manipulators and drama addicts feed on attention, on the tug-of-war of emotional escalation. They're used to pushback, loud objections, drawn-out arguments. But the Sigma gives them none of it. He denies them the battle. He doesn't yell, he doesn't plead, he doesn't even argue. Instead, he might disappear without warning, ghosting toxicity without guilt. Or worse, for those seeking validation, he ends the relationship or conflict with one calm, surgical decision. No drawn-out goodbyes, no need for closure, just a clean break, like cutting a cord that no longer serves him. This is where the real impact happens. Because while most people are accustomed to conflict leaving behind noise, a Sigma's silence echoes louder. His refusal to engage, to justify, to return, leaves scars. Not from violence or cruelty, but from the quiet void he creates. He doesn't seek revenge or make a scene. He simply moves on. And that can be more psychologically jarring than any shouting match. Studies in psychology have shown that emotional detachment, especially when unexpected, can be more unsettling than confrontation. It leaves the other party with unanswered questions, forced into self-reflection they didn't ask for. This is the Sigma's power, not in domination, but in unshakable control. While the world spins in drama and emotional chaos, the Sigma remains still, deliberate, and almost ghost-like in his movement. That makes him hard to manipulate, hard to decode, and even harder to forget. And that's precisely why his presence and absence leave a lasting mark. Number 2, he's immune to status games. While others measure their value in titles, followers, and fame, the Sigma male quietly walks away from it all, not out of arrogance, but out of alignment with deeper truths. In a world obsessed with recognition, he is a rare breed who finds no need to broadcast his worth. He could be wealthy beyond imagination, powerful beyond comprehension, yet he moves in silence. You won't find him chasing applause or scrambling for likes because his self-worth isn't constructed from external validation. It's built in silence, forged in the fire of solitude and tested through trials of self-reliance. This is what makes him dangerous, because the very things that society uses to control, tempt, or manipulate others simply don't work on him. You can't lure a man with status when he's already content in isolation. You can't intimidate a man who's not afraid to lose you. Sigma males function outside the traditional hierarchy, not below it or above it, but completely off the grid. They are lone wolves who operate with surgical precision, not because they have something to prove, but because they have nothing to lose. Psychologically, this level of detachment is unsettling to those who are addicted to attention and approval. The Sigma's independence reflects a form of quiet rebellion, a rejection of superficial metrics in favor of internal mastery. Research in behavioral psychology even supports this trait. Studies show that those with high levels of intrinsic motivation tend to be more creative, resilient, and less susceptible to peer pressure. Sigma males embody that principle in full. They aren't antisocial, they're selectively social. They don't hate authority, they just don't need it, and they don't fear being alone, because they've turned solitude into a sanctuary. In the modern era, where digital noise drowns out authenticity, the Sigma male's refusal to play the popularity game is both radical and refreshing. He isn't unreachable, he's just not waiting for validation. You won't find him where everyone else is looking, because he's already gone, deep into his purpose, unmoved by trends, untouched by manipulation. While others follow the spotlight, the Sigma is lighting his own fire in the dark. And that, more than anything, is what terrifies people, a man who is ungovernable, unshakable, and utterly free. Number 3, he withdraws without warning, no text, no message, just silence, and he's gone. To most, this sudden disappearance is baffling, what the world now calls ghosting. But for a Sigma male, it's not a game or manipulation tactic, it's preservation. In a world that constantly demands attention, reaction, and emotional labor, the Sigma male has mastered the art of withdrawal. When the energy around him becomes draining, when conversations grow artificial, and when social settings reek of pretense, he doesn't linger to argue or explain, he simply leaves. The Sigma's retreat is not cowardice, it's clarity. He knows that words rarely change those committed to misunderstanding him. He operates on a frequency of authenticity and self-containment, and when that frequency is disrupted, he doesn't seek to repair what's broken. He moves on to preserve what's whole within himself. Psychologically, this behavior ties into the Sigma's unique placement on the social hierarchy, outside of it entirely. Unlike alphas who dominate or betas who follow, Sigmas carve their own path, often preferring solitude over shallow interactions. Research in behavioral science suggests that introverted personalities with high self-awareness are more prone to setting firm emotional boundaries, often through avoidance or withdrawal. The Sigma male exemplifies this by creating invisible lines that, once crossed, signal an immediate disengagement. It's not impulsive, it's calculated. He's highly attuned to emotional shifts and can detect disingenuous behavior quickly. When that happens, the Sigma doesn't confront chaos. He simply chooses peace. This form of detachment often confuses others. People question his silence, misinterpret his distance as arrogance, or label his independence as antisocial behavior. But for the Sigma, understanding isn't the goal. Alignment is. And when that alignment breaks, when the connection becomes a drain rather than a source, he honors the fracture by letting it be final. There's a kind of brutal elegance in the way he disappears. Clean, quiet, complete. No bitterness, no blame, just a calculated withdrawal that leaves others wondering what happened while he walks forward unburdened. Because for the Sigma, the loudest statement he can make is often the one left unsaid. Number 4, he sees through social masks. While most men are easily dazzled by external attributes, beauty, charm, status, or wealth, the Sigma male plays a different game entirely. He isn't led by surface-level appeal or manipulated by what is shown to the world. Instead, he observes. He sees patterns in human behavior that others miss. He notices the micro-shifts in posture, the tension behind a fake smile, and the nervous glance that flickers for just a moment too long. Where others listen to words, the Sigma hears the slight crack in a voice, the urgency behind a calm statement. He doesn't need someone to shout to understand intensity. Silence to him is a language richer than dialogue, filled with hesitation, fear, secrets, and intent. This ability to read people like a book without them ever realizing it is unsettling to many. Most are used to hiding behind charm or distractions, but none of that works on a Sigma. He's attuned to the subtle, the invisible, and the intuitive. According to studies in behavioral psychology and nonverbal communication, over 90% of human interaction is conveyed through body language, facial expression, and vocal tone, not actual words. The Sigma male, whether consciously or through natural disposition, has mastered this unspoken language. This is what makes him dangerous in the eyes of manipulators, liars, and pretenders. They can't deceive someone who sees through the mask before it's even fully worn. But here's the twist: he rarely confronts. There's no grand expose, no explosive call-out. He simply acts based on what he knows. He withdraws, avoids, or navigates around the game being played without ever announcing that he's aware of it. That quiet confidence, that internal knowing without the need for validation, unnerves people. In a world where many scream for attention or validation, the Sigma walks calmly, confidently, seeing through illusions. And that's what makes him so powerful. He's not interested in competing on the same field as everyone else. He's already 10 steps ahead, operating on an entirely different level. Those around him may never understand why they feel uneasy in his presence, but somewhere deep down they sense the truth. This man can see what they've worked so hard to conceal. And that awareness, not of facts, but of unspoken truths, is what makes the Sigma both mysterious and magnetic. Number 5, he respects without needing approval. He'll complement the Alpha. He'll defend the Beta. But he will not kneel to either. That's the Sigma male in his purest form, an enigmatic, autonomous force who operates outside the conventional social hierarchy. Unlike alphas, who often crave dominance, or betas, who may seek approval, the Sigma male values sovereignty above status. He doesn't measure worth by rank, but by character. He may acknowledge an alpha's leadership skills or a beta's loyalty, but he won't submit to either's influence. His allegiance isn't to power or popularity, it's to principle. Respect, in the Sigma's world, is not something handed out like candy, nor is it extracted through fear or flattery. It's earned through authenticity, integrity, and consistency. And when a Sigma offers respect, it's not casual, it's significant. It means you've passed through his quiet internal filters and earned a place of honor in his mind. But beware, if you cross a line, violate his boundaries, or disrespect his core values, you won't get a lecture or a second chance. There will be no emotional explosion, no dramatic fallout, just silence. He'll vanish like smoke from a campfire, swift, cold, and final. This isn't a game of ego, it's a form of self-preservation. Studies in social psychology show that individuals who are highly self-reliant and introspective tend to withdraw rather than confront when trust is broken. That's the Sigma's natural response, not out of weakness, but out of strength. He knows his time, energy, and mental space are sacred, and he protects them fiercely. When he distances himself, it's not to punish, it's to maintain his peace. So if a Sigma walks away, don't mistake his silence for indecision. It's a loud, deliberate choice. He respects others, yes, but he respects himself more. And that's what makes him so rare in a world obsessed with validation and noise. He's not trying to impress you. He's not here to climb ladders or win popularity contests. He's here to live on his own terms, and that makes him both fascinating and formidable. So if a Sigma gives you his respect, cherish it. But if you lose it, don't expect a speech, just expect the echo of his absence. Number 6, he can walk away from anyone. Friend, boss, lover, even family. A Sigma male's boundaries apply across the board, and that's what makes him different. He doesn't walk away from people to make a statement, to be dramatic, or to punish someone with silence. No, he walks away to protect his peace, something he values more than popularity, approval, or tradition. While most people are conditioned to stick around and fix relationships because of history, obligation, or fear of being judged, the Sigma sees it differently. For him, loyalty isn't bought with time spent. It's earned through mutual respect, honesty, and integrity. If that foundation begins to crack, he doesn't waste energy patching a sinking ship. Instead, he quietly steps back. No explanations, no scenes, just distance. Psychologists refer to this as detachment with awareness, the ability to remain emotionally centered while stepping back from unhealthy dynamics. Sigma males have mastered this. They don't thrive on chaos, they retreat from it. It's not that they don't feel pain or care about others. It's that they've learned how to care without sacrificing themselves. When a relationship, whether personal or professional, becomes toxic, They don't argue or beg for respect. They remove themselves. And because this behavior challenges traditional emotional expectations, society often mislabels it as coldness, arrogance, or even narcissism. But in reality, it's emotional discipline rooted in self-preservation. In the animal kingdom, lone wolves are often misunderstood in the same way. They're not banished from the pack. They choose solitude for survival. Sigma males operate on the same principle. They're not antisocial, they're selectively social. Their departure isn't rejection, it's redirection. They understand that not everyone deserves access to their energy. This mindset can be intimidating, especially to those who thrive on codependence or manipulation. But to the Sigma, walking away isn't weakness, it's strength, it's clarity, it's choosing growth over guilt. So when he walks away from a friend, a boss, a lover, even family, it's not to hurt, it's to heal. The world might call that cold, but the Sigma, he calls it survival. And in a society that often rewards conformity and emotional chaos, survival requires a powerful combination of inner peace, quiet strength, and unapologetic self-respect. Number 7, he disarms women without trying. He doesn't chase, he doesn't flirt, he just exists. And somehow that's enough to spark curiosity, admiration, and even desire. The Sigma male operates on a frequency that doesn't beg for attention, but commands it through quiet presence. In a world saturated with performative masculinity, loud bravado, constant validation seeking, and overused pickup tactics, the Sigma male's silence becomes his loudest trait. Psychologists refer to this as non-reactive confidence, a trait linked to emotional intelligence and high self-awareness. His eye contact doesn't dart around nervously, it lingers just long enough to be felt, not forced. His words aren't thrown out like darts in a bar. They're chosen with surgical precision, leaving a lasting impression. And ironically, it's his absence that tends to make the most noise. That's because when someone isn't easily accessible, our brains activate what's called the Zeigarnik effect. We fixate more on the unfinished, the unanswered, and the unknown. This psychological mystery fuels magnetism. He's not playing games or manipulating emotions. What people perceive as seduction is actually discipline, power through restraint. By refusing to chase or conform, the Sigma male reminds others that self-respect is the highest form of attraction. His life doesn't orbit around anyone's validation. It revolves around his mission, his solitude, and his sense of purpose. And that gravitational pull, it's the natural consequence of a man who doesn't try to be magnetic. He just is. In a world where everyone is shouting, his silence becomes the most irresistible sound in the room. Number 8, he forces others to confront themselves. The deepest reason people fear him isn't because he's loud, aggressive, or dominant. It's because he is a mirror that reflects everything they are not. His discipline quietly reveals their procrastination and lack of self-control. When he maintains calm under pressure, it makes their internal chaos feel louder and more unstable. His self-reliance shines a harsh light on their dependency and constant need for validation, and perhaps most unsettling of all is his silence. In a world addicted to noise and distraction, his stillness acts like a spiritual vacuum, forcing others to confront the mental clutter they work so hard to avoid. Neurologically, the brain is wired to seek comfort in familiar behavior. When someone disrupts that norm, especially with stoic calm and quiet strength, it triggers discomfort and even resentment in others. He doesn't need to say a word to challenge someone's identity. He doesn't need to judge, condemn, or compare. He simply, and that unshakable presence is often more terrifying than any confrontation. It's not that he's threatening, he's just authentic. And in a world where masks are worn like armor, authenticity can be both magnetic and intimidating. It shakes foundations, rattles egos, and forces introspection. People fear him not for what he does, but for what he represents. The possibility that they too could be more, but aren't. And that realization, more than anything, can be unbearable. Becoming untouchable isn't about building walls, it's about refining your inner world until nothing external can shake it. A Sigma male isn't created by chance. He's shaped by pressure, like carbon turning into diamond. Every betrayal becomes a lesson. Every setback becomes fuel. Solitude becomes his training ground. While most chase validation, the Sigma retreats inward, mastering his thoughts, sharpening his intentions. Psychologically, this mirrors Carl Jung's concept of individuation, the journey of becoming one's true self, free from societal conditioning. The Sigma doesn't demand attention, yet people notice him. Why? because authenticity is magnetic. He doesn't follow trends. He becomes the standard others unconsciously measure themselves against. Power, for him, isn't loud or domineering. It's quiet, calculated, and deeply rooted in competence. Neuroscience even shows that individuals who can self-regulate emotions and delay gratification tend to achieve greater long-term success, traits that align with the Sigma's code. His silence isn't emptiness, it's focus. His coldness, precision. If you've been misunderstood for being too quiet, too intense, or too independent, you're likely not lacking anything. You're just operating on a frequency others haven't tuned into. And in a world full of noise, the man who moves in silence becomes the loudest force in the room. The Sigma isn't trying to be untouchable, he just is, because mastery, not popularity, is his North Star. Keep evolving. Stay dangerous. Stay Sigma. Sigmas, picture this. It's a cold, rainy evening in a city that never sleeps. People scurry home, heads down, shoulders hunched, umbrellas fighting the wind. But cutting through the chaos like a silent blade is one man, hood up, hands in his pockets, calm as the storm rages around him. He isn't rushing. He isn't checking his phone. He moves like he knows exactly where he's going, even if the world doesn't. As he walks past, people glance sideways. They feel something, not quite fear, but unease mixed with curiosity, like they just brush shoulders with something untamed. That right there is the essence of a Sigma male. What most don't realize is that Sigmas don't perform, the vibe they give off, that spine-chilling aura of calm confidence, it's not manufactured. It's a natural consequence of walking a path most wouldn't dare to take. Sigma males aren't defined by social status or validation. In fact, they often reject it. They're lone wolves, not because they can't fit in, but because they've realized they don't need to. Studies in psychology even support this personality archetype. Often associated with introverted, intuitive, and thinking traits in the Myers-Briggs type indicator, they navigate life with a powerful internal compass and deep self-awareness. And here's the chilling part. They don't even notice the effect they have on others. Their silence speaks volumes. Their stare feels like an X-ray. Their presence shifts the energy in a room without them saying a word. This isn't mysticism. It's psychology, biology, and experience converging into a personality that disrupts the norm. In this video, we're going deep into 7 spine-chilling behaviors Sigma males display without even realizing it. Get ready to uncover the hidden power behind your stillness and why it leaves others both captivated and unsettled. Number 1, the soul-penetrating stare. Let's start with the eyes. The gateway to a Sigma male's mysterious world. There's something undeniably captivating about what's often called, it's not a tactic, not something pulled from a dating coach's handbook or a confidence seminar. It's raw, real, and completely unintentional. When a Sigma male makes eye contact, it's as if time hesitates. Conversations stutter, movements slow, people freeze, not out of fear, but from the sheer weight of his presence. Unlike others who blink nervously, look away too soon, or pepper their gaze with disingenuous smiles, the Sigma male holds his stare with quiet purpose. He doesn't look at you, he looks through you, and that's exactly what sends shivers down the spine. It's not a hostile gaze, nor a flirtatious one. It's investigative, analytical, calculated, yet calm. It feels like he's downloading your entire essence, your posture, your tone, your emotional state, all in the span of a heartbeat. This level of perceptive power isn't some superpower, but is often rooted in their introverted, observant nature. Psychologically, many Sigmas display high levels of emotional intelligence, even if they don't speak it out loud. They pick up on micro-expressions and nonverbal cues, allowing them to read people like open books. What makes it so eerie is that most people aren't used to being fully seen. In a world obsessed with filters and facades, most of us float through life being superficially acknowledged, nodded at, smiled at, maybe glanced at. But the Sigma gaze penetrates all that. It doesn't play along with the social performance, and because it lacks the usual pretenses, people often find themselves exposed under it, naked in a psychological sense. What's even more chilling is that the Sigma doesn't do this intentionally to assert dominance. He's not trying to intimidate. This is simply who he is. A silent observer, always tuned in, always measuring. And people can sense that, whether they feel fascinated, anxious, or drawn in, it. That intense eye contact is more than a social cue. It's a signal that says, I see you, the real you. And for many, that's the most unsettling truth of all. Number two, disappearing without a trace. Ever heard of a ghost with a gym membership and a philosophical taste in books? That's a Sigma male. He's the type who shows up at a gathering, stands in the corner quietly sipping water, and then, without warning, he's gone. No dramatic exit, no explanation, not even a text, just a clean disappearance, like a shadow that was never fully there. While others might interpret this vanishing act as cold or aloof, it's actually something much deeper. It's self-preservation in its purest form. Sigma males are wired differently. They aren't avoiding people, they're managing their energy. In psychology, this behavior aligns closely with the concept of introverted intuition, where individuals absorb information from their environment, reflect deeply, and then retreat to process it. This kind of detachment isn't rooted in arrogance, but in the need for space to think and realign. In fact, studies in social neuroscience have shown that introverts experience more stimulation from social settings than extroverts, meaning they genuinely need more downtime to reset. But what's fascinating isn't just the leaving, it's the effect of the absence. Suddenly, the energy in the room changes. The quiet presence that once seemed inconspicuous now feels like a missing cornerstone. People start to feel the shift. Why? Because Sigma males don't demand attention, they command it passively. Their silence often serves as a grounding force, an invisible anchor that balances out the noise. This teaches a powerful lesson. Presence isn't always about volume. A person can speak softly, or not at all, and still leave a thunderous impact. It flips the script on traditional ideas of charisma. Sometimes it's the one who says the least who carries the most weight. In a society obsessed with visibility and noise, the Sigma's quiet withdrawal becomes a statement in itself. So Sigmas, don't second-guess the urge to vanish. That disappearing act isn't avoidance, it's strategy. It's how you protect your mind, maintain your mystery, and whether people admit it or not, make the biggest impression. Number three, emotionally untouchable until they're not. You know what really unnerves people? A man who doesn't flinch. In a world addicted to overreaction, where emotions flare up like wildfire at the slightest provocation, the Sigma male stands apart like a monolith in a storm. While everyone else is panicking, ranting, or spiraling, the Sigma watches, calm, stoic, unshaken. It's not because he doesn't feel anything. On the contrary, he feels deeply. But unlike most, he's mastered the ancient art of emotional restraint. That alone is intimidating. Because people can't read him, they can't predict him. And the unknown has always terrified the human psyche. This isn't about emotional suppression or robotic coldness, it's about composure. Psychologists refer to this trait as high emotional regulation, the ability to manage emotional responses in healthy, deliberate ways. For Sigma males, this isn't a tactic, it's instinctual. While most people react, Sigmas respond. That split-second difference is what sets them apart. It's like watching a tiger that chooses stillness over striking, not because it's weak, but because it's assessing the situation with lethal intelligence. And when that emotional veil finally lifts, when the Sigma allows the world to see what's beneath the surface, it's powerful. His anger doesn't explode, it slices. It's precise, cold, and calculated, more unsettling than any temper tantrum. His affection isn't casual, it's fiercely loyal and deeply protective. And his sorrow? When it appears, it carries the weight of 1,000 silences. It's not broadcast, it's embodied. People don't forget it because they rarely see anything like it. This emotional control is a modern superpower. In a chaotic world that rewards impulsivity, Sigmas are the ones who can walk into emotional storms without being swept away. And that shakes people to their core, not because they're heartless, but because they're uncommon. So if you're a Sigma male, never underestimate the power of your calm. Still, waters don't just run deep, they run dangerous. Number four, walking alone into the fire. Whether it's launching a business with zero backup, cutting ties with a toxic group, or chasing a dream the world calls impossible, Sigma males are built to go it alone. They don't wait for applause, they don't ask for permission, and they certainly don't crave hand-holding. This isn't about being antisocial, it's about being unapologetically focused. While the average person hesitates, waits for approval, or needs a safety net, the Sigma male dives headfirst into uncertainty, trusting in his own judgment and grit. He doesn't flinch, he doesn't fold. This lone wolf behavior isn't just unusual, it's unsettling to many. Why? Because it mirrors everything most people suppress: the fear of failure, the fear of judgment, the fear of walking alone. When a Sigma walks away from the crowd and faces the fire by himself, it shines a light on everyone else's insecurities. It's not arrogance, it's clarity. He knows what he stands for, and more importantly, what he won't stand for. Psychologists often talk about intrinsic motivation, doing something because it fuels you, not because it gets you praise. That's the Sigma way. He doesn't need claps from the crowd. He's powered by purpose, anchored in independence, and armored with resilience. Studies have shown that people who are intrinsically motivated tend to have higher levels of self-control, emotional stability, and long-term success. Sigma males embody this. They don't chase trends, they chase growth. What others call isolation, the Sigma sees as strategy. His solitude isn't about sadness, it's a space where vision sharpens and strength regenerates, and without even trying, he becomes a beacon. A silent leader, someone others admire, but few can truly understand. So next time someone says you're too quiet, too different, or too distant, remember this: leaders don't blend in, they stand apart. You don't need a crowd to confirm your value. Your courage to walk alone is proof enough. Number 5, reading people like books. Sigmas have an almost eerie ability to read people, and it isn't magic. It's something far more grounded in psychology, neuroscience, and experience. Give a Sigma male just a few seconds with someone, and he can often understand more about them than most close friends or even therapists do after weeks of conversation. This uncanny insight doesn't come from guesswork or wild assumptions. It's built on a refined sensitivity to micro-expressions, vocal tone shifts, posture, eye movements, and subtle contradictions in behavior or storytelling. While most people are distracted by small talk or trying to impress, Sigmas are quietly decoding the emotional truth beneath the surface. This level of intuition often feels supernatural to those on the receiving end. It's not manipulation. Sigmas don't use this gift to control or deceive. It's empathy fused with intellect. Studies show that individuals with high emotional intelligence can detect lies, hidden emotions, and distress signals with remarkable accuracy, often by observing brief facial expressions called micro-expressions that last only a fraction of a second. These are involuntary flashes of real emotion that most people miss, but not the Sigma. He's already seen it, filed it, and drawn a conclusion. This hyper-awareness is why Sigmas rarely ask too many questions. They already understand, and that can be deeply unsettling for others. We live in a world where most people hide behind carefully curated identities, masks built to protect vulnerabilities or manipulate perceptions. But when someone like a Sigma peels back those layers effortlessly, you don't feel seen, you feel exposed. It's not just that they know you, it's that they know the version of you you're not ready to show. That level of raw honesty is rare, and for many it's chilling. So no, it's not sorcery, it's a quiet storm of perception, intelligence, and emotional depth. And if you're not prepared for it, encountering a Sigma can feel like standing under a spotlight you didn't know was there. Number 6, speaking in calculated silence. Most people are uncomfortable with silence. It unnerves them. In social settings, they rush to fill it with chatter, awkward jokes, or meaningless small talk. Silence to them feels like something's wrong, like a gap that must be patched immediately. But Sigma males understand something deeper. Silence isn't emptiness, it's presence, it's energy, it's control. A Sigma doesn't fear the silence, hear it. When a Sigma walks into a room and says nothing, he doesn't come off as weak or timid, quite the opposite. His quiet demeanor becomes a statement. His silence speaks louder than the noise around him because it isn't random, it's intentional. It's not that he doesn't know what to say, it's that he doesn't waste his breath. He observes, calculates, and understands the power of restraint. In a world that rewards the loudest voice in the room, the Sigma flips the script by being the calmest. Psychologically speaking, silence can create a sense of dominance. Research in communication theory shows that people often interpret silence from high-status individuals as a sign of control and authority. A Sigma doesn't rely on volume to assert himself. His stillness is a force. And when he finally does speak, it's impactful. He uses words like a sniper uses bullets, carefully, strategically, and with deadly precision. That's unsettling for many. We live in a culture where talking often feels like the default mode of existence. We reward those who speak first, loudest, and longest. But the Sigma values over noise. His communication is rooted in intention, not attention. People aren't used to that. And when they encounter someone who doesn't perform socially, who isn't desperate to be heard, they start to feel unsteady. They start to wonder. That's the power of the Sigma male. He doesn't need to announce his presence, it's felt. His silence carries weight, his confidence is quiet, and his energy commands respect without saying a word. So if you're a Sigma, don't underestimate the silence you bring into a room. It's not emptiness, it's power refined. Your silence can shake people more than 1,000 words ever could. Number 7, living by his own code. Society has its rules: fit in, play nice, follow trends. But the Sigma male, he doesn't play by the rule book. He writes his own manual, one page at a time. In a world obsessed with validation, conformity, and curated perfection, the Sigma walks a different path, often alone, but never lost. He rejects the idea that happiness comes from external approval. Instead of chasing status symbols, he finds fulfillment in freedom, purpose, and inner peace. That's why he might live minimally, avoid shallow conversations, or opt out of the rat race entirely. This isn't rebellion for rebellion's sake. It's a conscious lifestyle. According to psychological studies on autonomy and personality types, those who prioritize internal values over societal expectations report higher levels of life satisfaction and mental well-being. And that's exactly what terrifies people. Why? Because the Sigma's life is proof that you can thrive without following the crowd. He doesn't need the spotlight, the latest gadget, or a social circle buzzing with noise. His very existence challenges the cultural programming that says, more is better, or fit in to succeed. His peace looks suspicious, his confidence unnerving, his self-sufficiency downright dangerous to a system built on dependency and distraction. To the average person, the Sigma is an enigma, someone who refuses to play the game, but still wins in his own way. His rejection of toxic traditions or empty trends isn't just about non-conformity. It's about authenticity. That authenticity threatens those who are too afraid to question the rules they've blindly followed. So they call him arrogant, cold, or antisocial. But the truth? He's just free. Sigmas, your code is your compass. It may not win you popularity, but it grants you something far more powerful: self-respect. It might isolate you from the crowd, but it also liberates you from the cage. In a world trying to mold everyone into the same shape, staying true to yourself is the ultimate revolution. Keep walking that road, even if it makes others uncomfortable. That discomfort is just the sound of the system cracking. So there you have it, Sigmas, the 7 spine-chilling things you do without even realizing it. Not because you're trying to intimidate or seek attention, but because your way of life stands in stark contrast to the norm. You walk with a different rhythm, one that doesn't need a spotlight or validation to be felt. You operate with intention, live with independence, and carry a quiet power that shakes people more than any loud outburst ever could. You are the calm in a storm, the one who doesn't just survive the chaos, but the eye of it. In a world drowning in shallow distractions and performative behaviors, you bring depth, mystery, and a presence that speaks volumes without saying a word. People can't quite put their finger on it, why they feel unsettled, intrigued, or even intimidated when you enter a room. But science suggests that strong nonverbal cues like confident posture, low emotional reactivity, and purposeful silence trigger psychological responses in others. These are all traits associated with Sigma males. You're like a storm that doesn't need thunder to be dangerous. People sense it. They sense the discipline, the independence, the refusal to conform, and that energy lingers even after you've left. It's not about being better than anyone else. It's about being fully, unapologetically, and with direction. If you recognize these traits in yourself, don't shy away from them. Lean in, cultivate them, and if you're working toward them, keep pushing. This world doesn't need more distractions. It needs more men willing to walk their own path with quiet strength and clarity. Like the video, hit subscribe and join our community of high-value men on a mission. Share this with a fellow Sigma who might need the reminder, and drop a comment below if something resonated with you. Stay sharp, stay grounded, stay Sigma. What if I told you, however, that when women begin acting weirdly around you, it's truly attraction, shrewdly cloaked as confusion? Ever had a woman seem genuinely interested one moment, only for her to vanish without explanation the next? Or maybe you've heard through the grapevine that she always brings up your name, even though she claims you're just a friend. Sound familiar? You're not imagining things. And no, you're not losing your grip on reality. What you're witnessing is a subtle psychological dance, and you're the hidden rhythm behind every step. You see, when it comes to Sigma males, women react differently. Why? Because you're not playing their game, you the game. While other men jump through hoops, desperate for validation, you remain composed. You don't perform, you exist. You don't chase, you withdraw. And paradoxically, that silence becomes the loudest thing in the room. It's not arrogance, it's presence. This is where kicks in a concept from behavioral psychology. It's the brain's natural resistance to feeling controlled. When a woman senses that your attention isn't something she can command, her subconscious flips a switch. Suddenly, your mystery becomes a challenge, and her interest is amplified by the uncertainty you represent. You're the unopened message, the locked door, the storm she can't forecast. And that makes you irresistible. Being a Sigma male means you project quiet confidence, autonomy, and emotional discipline. Women pick up on this energy and respond in odd, even contradictory ways. They might flirt and flee, gossip about you obsessively, or deny attraction while keeping you on their mental radar. The unpredictability isn't a bug in the system, it's proof you've disrupted the usual pattern. So what happens when women detect your Sigma presence? Their reactions won't always be obvious or romantic. They might be erratic, intense, or flat-out bizarre. But they all lead to one truth. You're not just in the room, you're under their skin. Stick around because we're about to decode 5 of the strangest behaviors women display when they sense they're dealing with a Sigma. And after this, you'll never confuse mixed signals with disinterest again. Number 1, she stares a lot, but looks away when you notice. You know that moment. You catch her staring. Deep, intense, like she's trying to solve a riddle written in your eyes, but the second you lock gaze with her, boom, she looks away. It might seem like a flicker of shyness, but it's much more than that. What you just witnessed was not hesitation, it was fascination. That quick glance away is her brain hitting the panic button because she just encountered something rare. A man who doesn't chase, doesn't try too hard, and doesn't need validation. In other words, a Sigma male. In the world of evolutionary psychology, women are biologically inclined to scan, assess, and evaluate potential mates. It's a subconscious process tied to survival and selection, but when a Sigma walks in, a man who's calm, mysterious, and detached from the usual social dynamics, he doesn't fit any of the predictable categories. He's not the flashy alpha, not the quiet beta, and certainly not the overly agreeable nice guy. He stands apart. And that difference throws the usual radar off course. So she stares captivated, trying to figure out who or what you really are. This moment of eye contact becomes a psychological puzzle. You didn't flinch, you didn't beam a cheesy smile, and you definitely didn't get flustered. That cool, unreadable demeanor, that's what makes you so fascinating. In fact, studies in behavioral science show that unpredictability and emotional restraint in men often trigger more intrigue and emotional investment from women. Why? Because we're drawn to what we can't easily explain. The human brain craves resolution, and when it doesn't get it, like in your case, it becomes obsessed. You are the man who carries himself like a question with no easy answer. You're not auditioning for her attention, which ironically grabs it more than any pickup line ever could. Your silence speaks louder than most men's speeches, and your aura doesn't beg for approval. It challenges her to look deeper. That's why she looks away when you catch her staring. It's not rejection, it's respect. It's her subconscious saying, this man is different. I need to tread carefully. Because you're not just a man, you're a presence, a Sigma male, and mystery, my friend, is magnetic. Number 2, she tries to test your silence, then gets intimidated by it. Women are used to certain patterns in male behavior, especially when it comes to silence. Most men feel compelled to fill every pause in a conversation, whether through awkward jokes, self-promotion, or excessive questions. This isn't necessarily a flaw, it's often a subconscious attempt to win approval, impress, or keep the interaction flowing. But when a woman encounters a Sigma male, the script flips. He doesn't feel the urge to entertain or over-explain. He doesn't scramble to fill the silence. Instead, he lets it linger, calmly, comfortably, and powerfully. And that's silence. It speaks louder than any words. A Sigma male's silence isn't empty, it's charged. It carries presence. While others rush to perform, the Sigma leans into stillness, creating an invisible field of mystery. Women pick up on that instantly. They're not just noticing the silence, they're it. It's a rare form of composure that unsettles and intrigues at the same time. The silence becomes a mirror reflecting back their own thoughts and emotions. They might poke at him with teasing or sarcastic remarks, trying to break through that calm exterior. They may even test his patience just to see if he'll crack. But when he doesn't flinch, when he meets their probing with a quiet, unreadable stare, that's when curiosity kicks in. In psychology, this effect ties closely to what's called non-verbal dominance. Research shows that people who remain calm and quiet in high-stress or uncertain social settings often command more respect and intrigue. In men, this trait is especially rare and attractive because it signals high emotional control and self-assurance. It tells a woman that alone sets him apart. So when a Sigma male holds silence like a weapon, it doesn't create distance, it creates depth. A woman starts to wonder the silence forces her to lean in rather than pull away. It breaks predictable patterns, it challenges her without saying a word. And in that space of quiet intensity, attraction is born, not from performance but from presence. That's the Sigma edge. He doesn't beg for attention, he attracts it. His silence doesn't reflect emptiness, it reflects control. It doesn't mean he has nothing to say, it means he only speaks when it matters. That contrast is magnetic, and in a noisy world his silence roars. Number 3, she starts to mirror your behavior, subconsciously. One of the weirdest and most telling things a woman will do when she's truly drawn to a Sigma male is subtly start adopting his habits. At first, it might seem like a coincidence. She starts listening more attentively, becomes noticeably quieter in loud environments, or suddenly develops a new interest in reading self-help books or philosophy, topics you've been into for years. You might even catch her mimicking your posture, crossing her arms the way you do, or leaning in at the same angle during conversations. It's not just flattering, it's fascinating. Why does this happen? Psychologists call it mirroring, a behavior rooted in subconscious admiration and social bonding. When someone deeply respects or feels attracted to another person, they naturally begin to imitate them as a way of creating rapport. It's the brain's way of saying, I like you and I want to connect with you. This isn't manipulation or trickery, it's a built-in feature of human social psychology. Studies in behavioral science have shown that mirroring increases the sense of connection between people and even boosts empathy and trust. But here's where it gets interesting. This doesn't happen just with anyone. It happens specifically when someone sees you as high value, unpredictable, and worth observing. And that's what the Sigma male represents. You're not chasing trends or approval, you operate by your own internal compass. And that quiet confidence creates a gravitational pull. Unlike alphas, who command attention through dominance, or betas, who seek approval through compliance, Sigmas draw people in by being unaffected, mysterious, and self-contained. You don't try to fit into the world. The world slowly starts to fit itself around you. So when a woman starts mirroring your calm, your curiosity, or even your quietude, it's not an accident. It's a reflection of your psychological presence, your vibe, your essence, reshaping the environment around you. This phenomenon isn't just romantic, it's a form of unspoken influence, and that's what makes it so powerful. The Sigma effect isn't about control, it's about being so authentically yourself that others can't help but take notice and shift themselves just to stay in your orbit. That's when you know your energy is speaking louder than words ever could. Number 4. She overshares to break your mystery. Here's a wild one. She starts opening up about everything, her past, her fears, her goals, even her toxic exes, just to see if you'll crack and share something back. On the surface, it might look like vulnerability or a bonding moment, but peel back the layers, and it's actually a psychological tactic rooted in something known as. This is a social phenomenon where when someone shares something personal, our brains are wired to feel an urge to reciprocate. It's human nature. When someone takes down their walls, we feel obligated to take down ours too. But here's where it gets interesting. Sigma males are wired differently. They don't play emotional poker just because someone tosses a few chips on the table. This move, her rapid oversharing, is often strategic, sometimes even subconscious. It's like emotional bait. She's probing to see if there's a crack in the armor, a window she can peek through. And if you do start revealing things, it tells her how easily she can access your inner world, which for many people, especially women who are intrigued by mystery, is the ultimate prize. But what she doesn't realize is, this tactic doesn't work on Sigmas. You don't operate on impulse or social pressure. You operate on instinct, clarity, and calculated choice. See, a Sigma male doesn't just give away his emotional bandwidth like it's on clearance. He's not cold, he's precise. He understands that vulnerability is a powerful currency, not something to throw around casually. This is what confuses women the most. They're used to men who either overshare in hopes of gaining affection or those who clam up entirely. But the Sigma, he's the rare breed who listens, understands, even empathizes, but doesn't spill unless there's a reason. It's not emotional stinginess, it's self-mastery. And that self-mastery becomes irresistible. Why? Because people, especially women, are naturally drawn to what they can't easily define or conquer. So when she shares and you don't immediately reciprocate, it's not rejection, it's intrigue, it's a mystery, it's power. She might push harder, try new angles, and open up even more just to hear a single detail from your world. But you keep your cards close, because being Sigma isn't about being unavailable. It's about being intentional. You choose when, where, and with whom to share your story. Not because someone's curious, but because someone's earned it, and that's what keeps them coming back for more. Number 5, she becomes competitive with you or your attention. This one's sneaky. And if you're not paying attention, it can fly right under your radar. She won't come out and say she's interested in you. No, she'll take the indirect route. Suddenly, she's highlighting her achievements in conversations. She's independent, successful, well-traveled, and maybe even a bit mysterious herself. She'll casually mention that she doesn't need anyone to complete her. But here's the twist. She's not just stating facts, she's performing. She's subtly positioning herself as a high-value woman because she sees you as a high-value man, a Sigma male who doesn't flinch at her beauty or bend over backwards for her attention. You see, most women are used to being chased. They know the script. Smile, flirt, and the guy comes running. But when you don't follow the script, when you maintain your calm detachment and refuse to play the validation game, it throws her off. She doesn't know how to respond to a man who doesn't immediately show interest, who doesn't fall for the usual tactics. So what does she do? She adapts. She starts competing, not with you, but with the other women around you. She wants to prove she's the top contender, even if you haven't started the race. Psychologists often refer to this as mate value calibration. It's the subconscious effort to align herself with what she perceives to be your standards. When a Sigma male walks into the room, he carries an energy of self-sufficiency and inner power. That's magnetic, but also intimidating. She senses that you're not easily impressed, so she raises the bar. It's not about dominating you. It's about regaining a sense of control in an unfamiliar dynamic where she's not holding all the cards. It becomes a game of psychological chess. Her competitive edge isn't necessarily hostile. It's more like an audition. Except you're not the one watching. She is. She's trying to understand why she suddenly cares about your approval. She's wondering why she's thinking about you when you haven't even made a move. That confusion creates tension, and that tension becomes a kind of emotional gravity. So the next time a woman starts humble bragging about her success or mysteriously begins hanging out where she knows other women might be near you, know this. It's not arrogance, it's strategy. She's trying to solve the Sigma puzzle. Not because she wants to win you over in the traditional sense, but because deep down, your indifference has awakened something far more primal, her desire to your attention. Number 6, she tries to label you, but nothing fits. You're kind of mysterious. You're not like other guys. What are you exactly? These aren't just flirtatious one-liners, they're the honest echoes of a woman's curiosity when she meets a Sigma male. In a world obsessed with labeling men into categories like alpha, beta, the joker, the nice guy, or the heartbreaker, the Sigma male is the one who slips through the cracks, defying the expected social script. That's what makes him so compelling and so confusing. Women have been socially conditioned to read behavior patterns. Alphas lead with dominance, betas follow with loyalty, and the rest tend to fall somewhere along the predictable spectrum. But a Sigma male? He plays his own game, often walking solo, but with the confidence of a man who knows exactly where he's going. What fascinates women most is the paradox Sigma men embody. You don't seek approval, yet people admire you. You don't chase attention, yet you naturally draw it. You're reserved, yet you hold intense presence. It's this contrast that triggers curiosity on a deep psychological level. In fact, according to psychological theories like the Zeigarnik effect, people tend to remember incomplete or unresolved stimuli more than complete ones. When a woman can't figure you out, you essentially become a mental itch, an unfinished story in her head. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Your independence isn't an act, it's a lifestyle. You move through the world with quiet assurance, not trying to prove your worth to anyone. You're introspective, selective with your energy, and immune to social pressure. This detachment is not apathy, it's mastery. It signals self-control, which evolutionary psychology links with higher status and desirability. Women pick up on this instinctively. They may not understand it consciously, but emotionally, they know they're dealing with someone different, someone who challenges the norm. So when they say, "What are you exactly?" well, they're not looking for a textbook answer. They're reacting to the rare phenomenon of encountering a man who doesn't beg for validation, doesn't over-explain himself, and doesn't need a label to feel whole. That's the Sigma effect in action. Mysterious, yes. Misunderstood, often. Magnetic, always. Number 7. She gets unusually vulnerable, and it scares her. This might be the most powerful reaction of all. When a woman feels truly safe around a Sigma male, it's not because he says the right things or performs some charming act. It's something deeper, more primal. Sigmas have a rare kind of presence, calm, grounded, and quietly confident. They're not trying to impress anyone. They don't dominate conversations or chase validation. And that very absence of ego is what makes them magnetic. For many women, this is an entirely different experience from the usual masculine energy they encounter. With Sigmas, there's no need to perform, pretend, or protect themselves. That non-judgmental aura creates a space where they can simply, and that's intoxicating. Psychologically speaking, this comfort is tied to something called emotional safety. When a woman feels emotionally safe, her nervous system relaxes. She doesn't feel the need to defend herself or hold back. That's when something almost magical happens. She begins to open up, not in a rehearsed, surface-level way, but in a raw, authentic one. She might find herself sharing childhood memories, past traumas, or secret dreams she's never dared to voice aloud. And it often catches even her off guard. What's powerful is that the Sigma male didn't ask for this. He didn't pry or push. She volunteered this vulnerability of her own free will, drawn by his steady, silent energy. That's not just a sign of interest, it's a mark of trust, which runs far deeper than attraction alone, and yet that trust can spook her. Once she realizes how exposed she's become, how quickly she let her guard down, she may recoil. It's not about you, it's about her suddenly recognizing the depth of the moment. That moment of emotional nakedness can feel both thrilling and terrifying. This dynamic highlights one of the Sigma male's most underrated traits, his ability to invite openness without effort. In a world full of noise, the Sigma's silence speaks volumes. His calm becomes a sanctuary, and in that sanctuary, even the most guarded hearts feel seen, held, and safe. That's the kind of impact that lingers long after the conversation ends. So Sigmas, what do all these strange behaviors really reveal? They reveal something powerful. You're not just seen, You're not the guy shouting for attention in the room. You're the one people can't stop watching, even in your silence. While others crave likes, followers, or applause, you move with a sense of purpose that doesn't demand recognition, but always earns respect. This isn't just about mystery for mystery's sake. Psychologically, humans are wired to be intrigued by what they can't easily define. When women encounter a man who isn't seeking approval, who's comfortable in his own skin and doesn't flinch at solitude, it triggers curiosity and sometimes even obsession. The real power of the Sigma lies not in dominance, but in energy. Your mere presence disrupts the predictable. You don't chase, yet you're always ahead. You don't react, yet you're always in control. And that changes people, especially women who are used to men who try too hard. So keep moving in silence, not to hide, but to lead. Be the unsolved puzzle, not the open book. Because results speak louder than revenge, growth outshines attention, and silence, when it comes from confidence, echoes louder than any speech. Stay sharp, stay grounded, stay Sigma. Most people don't see it coming. They misread the Sigma male entirely. His silence, mistaken for weakness, his love of solitude, assumed to be loneliness, his calm demeanor, seen as passive, but that's the first and often last mistake people make. Because beneath the surface of a Sigma male is a force that doesn't need to roar to be felt. Sigma males don't need to raise their voices to command attention. Their presence alone speaks volumes. They don't seek validation, approval, or dominance through aggression. Instead, they observe, calculate, and wait. And when the time comes, they act with precision. The reason Sigma males are often feared, even by alphas, is because their power is quiet, internal, and unpredictable. While others are busy posturing, Sigmas are watching, thinking, mastering their surroundings. They live by the quote, "The most dangerous man is the one who observes everything and says nothing." This isn't just poetic, it's psychologically sound. Studies in behavioral psychology reveal that individuals who display high emotional control and minimal outward reaction tend to hold more inner strength and resilience. Sigma males embody this. They can sit through storms, both internal and external, without flinching, because their power doesn't need expression. It's built in. This kind of emotional and psychological control makes people uncomfortable. It creates an unsettling mystery. What is he thinking? What is he capable of? That calm silence becomes the eye of a storm, and everyone around him feels the tension without knowing why. It's not that Sigma males are violent or aggressive, it's that if pushed, their reaction won't be messy. It'll be swift, sharp, and final. That's the real danger. Like a lone wolf, they don't bark to intimidate, they simply bite when needed. So how do Sigma males show they're dangerous? They don't. That's the whole point. You feel it, not through what they say, but in what they don't. And the world can't stop watching because deep down everyone knows. The calmest ones are often the most lethal. Point 1. They master the art of silent dominance. Sigmas don't need to flex, shout, or prove anything. That's rookie behavior. While most people rely on loudness, bravado, or social validation to establish dominance, the Sigma male operates on a completely different frequency, one of calm precision. When others bark and posture, Sigmas are quietly analyzing the room. They observe without reacting, calculate without boasting, and strike only when absolutely necessary. This deliberate detachment isn't weakness, it's power under control. It's the kind of energy that unsettles people, not because it's aggressive, but because it's unreadable. This is where the true danger of a Sigma lies, not in his words, but in his silence. Silence is often underestimated in today's noisy world, but silence in the hands of a self-aware man becomes a weapon. It creates mystery, tension, and curiosity, and people fear what they cannot predict. The average person is accustomed to loud threats and overt displays of power. But when a man stands unshaken, says nothing, yet holds unwavering eye contact, you know something deeper is going on. That's when the fear kicks in, because you're no longer dealing with someone seeking approval. You're dealing with someone who already knows who he is and what he's capable of. It's the stillness before the storm that keeps people on edge. The storm doesn't announce its arrival with noise, it builds in silence. Likewise, the Sigma's presence creates a shift in the atmosphere, not because he demands it, but because others instinctively adjust to it. It's like watching a panther in the jungle. It doesn't need to roar to command respect. It simply exists, and everything else falls into place around it. That quiet confidence is not something you can fake. It's forged in solitude, built on introspection, and sharpened through experience. Psychologically, humans are wired to react more strongly to ambiguity than to direct threat. This is known as the fear of the unknown, and Sigmas embody this principle to perfection. Their unpredictability, their refusal to conform, and their emotional self-containment make them walking enigmas. And in a world that constantly tries to categorize people, the Sigma's refusal to fit in makes him all the more intimidating, not because he tries to be, but because his silence speaks louder than anyone else's noise. Point 2, they control their emotions like a strategist. Here's a scary truth. When you can't be emotionally manipulated, you become invincible. And that's exactly the secret power Sigma males possess. In a society where reactions are currency, where outrage fuels clicks and drama drives attention, the man who refuses to be baited stands apart. Sigma males are not emotionally detached, they're emotionally disciplined. That's the difference. While most people explode under pressure or get drawn into arguments to defend their pride, Sigmas pause, observe, and calculate. They don't react, they respond. And that response is often so calm, so unexpected, that it throws manipulators off balance. Imagine this: someone tries to insult or provoke you, expecting anger or defensiveness. Instead, you give them nothing, no raised voice, no twitch of frustration, just silence or a calm nod. That's the Sigma effect. Their emotional control isn't weakness, it's power disguised as indifference. When you're no longer a puppet to someone else's emotional strings, you can't be controlled. And that terrifies people who rely on manipulation to dominate social spaces. This is why Sigmas are often labeled as cold or intimidating, but the truth is they've simply mastered a level of self-awareness that shields them from toxic entanglements. They've studied the rules of social games, the lies, the guilt trips, the gaslighting, and instead of playing along, they flip the board and walk away. That kind of unpredictability makes people nervous, because most conflicts operate on a predictable script. Poke, provoke, explode. But when the Sigma refuses to play his part, the game collapses. Psychologically, this kind of restraint is linked to high emotional intelligence. Studies show that people with strong emotional regulation are better leaders, better problem solvers, and less prone to anxiety. Sigma males aren't just lone wolves by choice. They've understood that solitude sharpens their emotional sword. While the world is busy reacting impulsively, Sigmas use that stillness to strategize. It's like being in a storm, but remaining dry because you saw the clouds coming and stepped aside before it hit. So yes, a man who doesn't lose his cool is unpredictable. And unpredictable men who can't be emotionally rattled, are dangerous. Not because they're violent or loud, but because they're free. Free from manipulation, free from emotional traps, and free from anyone's control. That kind of emotional armor isn't just rare, it's powerful. And in today's chaotic world, it might be the ultimate form of strength. Point 3. They walk away from what most men chase. There's a silent power that very few men ever master. The ability to walk away without looking back. It's not just about ending a conversation or exiting a relationship, it's about reclaiming one's power by refusing to entertain what no longer serves their mission, their values, or their peace. When a man walks away from validation, attention, or even the magnetic pull of a beautiful woman who disrespects him, he performs one of the boldest power moves in the psychological playbook. He's not storming off in anger or playing mind games, he's simply choosing himself over the illusion of approval. And that right there is what sets a Sigma male apart from the rest. Unlike men who crave validation to confirm their self-worth, Sigma males operate outside the typical social hierarchy. They don't rely on others to define them. They are what psychologists would call internally validated. That means their sense of identity comes from within, not from applause, attention, or being desired. So when they sense disrespect or emotional manipulation, they don't argue, plead, or try to win anyone over. They disengage quietly and firmly, not out of weakness, but out of strength. To outsiders, this kind of detachment seems cold. How could someone just walk away from someone so beautiful, so desirable? But to the Sigma, beauty without respect is like a crown on an empty throne, attractive but meaningless. They view relationships as partnerships, not prizes. And if the energy isn't reciprocated, if dignity is compromised, they don't waste a moment explaining, they simply exit. This behavior is often mistaken for arrogance, but in truth, it's discipline. And discipline is terrifying to those who lack it, because it reflects what they secretly wish they had: self-control, boundaries, and the courage to walk alone rather than stay somewhere they're not valued. In a society that rewards people-pleasing and performance, the Sigma male's refusal to chase or beg disrupts the script. He's not interested in being the loudest, he'd rather be the realist. And his silence speaks volumes. Ultimately, when a man chooses to walk away from attention, validation, or disrespect, he's not losing anything, he's gaining everything: his dignity, his peace, his power. And in a world starving for authenticity, that's not just rare, it's legendary. Point 4, they're dangerously smart and strategic. Sigmas are thinkers, strategists of the highest order. Unlike impulsive individuals who react in the heat of the moment, Sigmas operate with a calm, calculating precision that unnerves even the most confident opponent. These are not men who rush into situations blindly. They observe, they analyze, they understand the terrain, both physical and psychological, before they make a move. What makes them truly dangerous is not how loud they are, but how quiet they can be. In that silence lies a mind constantly at work, decoding body language, dissecting motives, and predicting outcomes with unnerving accuracy. You see, Sigma males tend to have a deep interest in psychology, human behavior, and pattern recognition. This isn't just for show, it's a survival mechanism and a strategic advantage. They're the kind of men who read books on social dynamics, pay attention to micro-expressions, and notice things others miss. While most people are caught up in surface-level conversations or distracted by emotions, the Sigma is mentally 3 steps ahead, mapping out your intentions, cataloging your tells, and formulating a response you won't see coming. Think of a Sigma like a grandmaster playing chess, not just any chess game, but one where he already knows your next 5 moves. That's not fiction, that's strategy, backed by the science of predictive behavior. Studies in cognitive psychology show that the best decision makers are those who delay their responses long enough to analyze multiple variables. Sigmas do this naturally. They don't overreact because they've already seen the endgame. While others guess, Sigmas calculate. While others chase, Sigmas observe from the shadows and let patterns unfold. And when it's time to move, they don't shout, they don't flinch. They strike with surgical precision. Their power lies in controlled motion, deliberate and impactful. It's why their actions hit harder than words ever could. A Sigma doesn't need validation, applause, or approval. His silence is his shield. His intellect is his weapon. And his understanding of people, that's the trap you won't even realize you walked into until it's too late. So if you ever find yourself face to face with a Sigma, don't mistake his quiet for weakness or his distance for indifference. He's not checked out. He's simply watching, learning, and waiting. Because when he finally moves, it's never by accident, it's by design. Point 5. They don't fear being alone. Loneliness is often seen as a punishment, a harsh and empty space where people feel abandoned or forgotten. But for the Sigma male, it is anything but a curse. It is power. Solitude is not just a quiet backdrop to their life, it is their training ground. In a world obsessed with noise, validation, and constant social interaction, the Sigma male chooses silence. And in that silence, he grows stronger. While many struggle with the weight of being alone, Sigmas use it as an opportunity to sharpen their minds. Psychological studies show that solitude, when chosen rather than imposed, boosts creativity, self-awareness, and mental clarity. This is exactly why the Sigma thrives in isolation. With no one to impress and no distractions to dilute their focus, they dive deep into introspection. They examine their goals, dissect their failures, and design their next move with surgical precision. Their thoughts become weapons, honed to a razor's edge in the stillness most people run from. You see, Sigmas don't fear being alone because they don't need external validation to define their worth. Unlike alphas who lead the pack and betas who follow it, Sigmas walk alone, not out of weakness, but by choice. Their independence is not just a trait, it's a lifestyle. And that's what makes them so powerful. You can't control a man who doesn't fear being disconnected from the crowd. Try to bribe him with attention. He doesn't need it. Try to manipulate him with exclusion. He prefers it. His solitude makes him immune to emotional blackmail. This is exactly what terrifies those who feed off constant approval and connection. People who rely on groupthink and collective ego can't understand how someone can thrive outside the system. To them, silence is dangerous because it represents freedom, freedom from conformity, expectation, and control. The Sigma male, with his self-contained strength and unshakable independence, becomes a threat to the status quo simply by refusing to participate in it. So while the world keeps scrolling, posting, liking, and chasing fleeting validation, the Sigma remains still, alone but never lonely, isolated but never disconnected from his purpose. And when he steps out of that solitude, he does so sharper, calmer, and more focused than ever, because for him, loneliness was never a prison, it was a forge. And in it, he has become something few truly understand, a man who doesn't need the world to know his name in order to make an impact. Point 6. They speak last, but with finality. Sigmas are a breed apart, not interested in the noise, the spotlight, or the exhausting game of one-upping others in a room full of egos. While most people rush to speak first, to dominate the conversation, to flex their intelligence, or to assert their dominance, the Sigma male watches quietly from the sidelines. He lets the chaos unfold, the heated debates, the emotional outbursts, the clash of opinions. It's all just background noise to him. He understands something that most don't. Energy is a limited resource, and timing is everything. So while others waste their breath trying to win arguments or score points, the Sigma conserves his. He's not silent because he has nothing to say. He's silent because what he has to say will matter more when spoken at the right moment. This is a tactic rooted in psychology and even ancient strategy. Think of Sun Tzu's, where he writes, "He who knows when he can fight and when he cannot will be victorious." Sigmas live by this principle, choosing not to engage unless there's something worth engaging in. They play the long game. And when they finally speak, just once, calmly and confidently, the room listens. Not because he demanded attention, but because his words carry weight. There's real science behind this effect. Studies in communication psychology show that people who speak less but more meaningfully are often perceived as more intelligent and authoritative. It's called the less is more effect, and Sigmas use it instinctively. Their words are precise, thoughtful, often layered with wisdom that cuts through the noise. It's not showmanship, it's substance. And the result? A kind of hush that follows their voice. Not awkward silence, but the heavy silence of realization. That's when people get quiet. Not because they were defeated, but because they've just been exposed to truth in its most potent form. And what happens next is both subtle and powerful: respect and a little fear. Not fear of violence, but fear of what else this quiet observer might know, might say, or might do if pushed. That's the power of restraint and timing. Sigma males don't seek to dominate. They simply embody such calm control that others naturally fall in line. It's not the roar of a lion that shakes the forest. Sometimes it's the silent stare that makes the wolves back down. Point 7. They set boundaries without apologies. You know what's truly dangerous in today's world? A man who says no and doesn't flinch. In a society where peer pressure, guilt-tripping, and social manipulation run rampant, the ability to calmly reject what doesn't serve you is a rare and formidable power. Sigma males have mastered this art. They operate with an inner compass so strong that external opinions barely shake them. When a Sigma male says no, it's not out of rebellion or ego, it's from a place of clarity. They've already weighed the cost of saying yes and chosen the path of self-respect instead. These men treat their time, energy, and values like a vault, sealed tight and only accessible to those who've earned the key. You won't catch a Sigma justifying his choices to win approval or soften the blow. He doesn't explain, he doesn't defend, he simply decides. And this stoic decisiveness can be deeply unsettling to people who rely on emotional influence or social conformity to get their way. Psychologically, this type of detachment is linked to high emotional intelligence and self-regulation. Sigma males tend to score high on autonomy scales, which means they thrive independently and don't need external validation to make choices. They're not driven by trends, approval, or fear of missing out. That's what makes them a force of nature. When you can't be guilted, manipulated, or swayed, you don't just walk through the world. You move through it like a silent storm, calm, controlled, and unstoppable. Point 8, they're unpredictable by design. Sigmas play their cards close to the chest, and that alone unsettles people. Unlike others who crave attention or validation, Sigma males operate on their own terms, guided by an internal compass rather than external approval. This self-reliance creates an aura of mystery. People can't quite figure them out, and that ambiguity becomes deeply unsettling. You never truly know what a Sigma is thinking, planning, or feeling, and that enigma haunts those who are used to reading people like open books. Sigmas move in silence. They show up when they want, disappear when they choose, and when they return, they're sharper, wiser, and more composed than ever before. That kind of unpredictability makes them immune to manipulation. You can't pull strings on a man who doesn't care for the puppet show. In psychological terms, this behavior aligns with high emotional intelligence and internal locus of control, traits that allow them to detach from social pressures and move independently. Society tries to trap men in predictable roles and responses, but Sigmas, they break the mold entirely. You can't trap a man who doesn't follow a path, especially when he's busy carving his own through the wilderness, far from the noise of the crowd. You see, Sigmas aren't loud because they don't need to be. Their presence speaks volumes without ever raising a voice. This isn't about scaring people into submission, it's about earning respect through quiet confidence and unwavering independence. Sigma males defy categorization. They don't fit neatly into society's boxes, and that's exactly what makes them powerful. While the world obsesses over fitting in, Sigmas focus on standing out by living authentically and pursuing truth over trend. They don't crave validation or chase the spotlight. They build their own platforms on their terms. In a noisy world craving direction, Sigma energy is the quiet storm that disrupts the norm. So be the calm in chaos, be the warning in silence, be the storm they never saw coming. And if you're one of them, welcome to the Sigma Brotherhood. Stay sharp, stay Sigma. Greetings. If there's one thing you should know about a Sigma male, it's this. He's not the type to make a big scene or constantly call people out. But don't mistake his silence for ignorance. A Sigma never overlooks disrespect, manipulation, or passive aggression. Not because he wants to start drama, but because he knows one overlooked offense leads to another. And before long, people start testing his boundaries like it's a game. The Sigma understands human psychology better than most. He knows that when you allow one person to cross a line, others will follow suit like clockwork. It doesn't matter if you're his friend, co-worker, or even a romantic partner. Once you disrespect a Sigma's values or personal code, the connection begins to unravel. Sigmas have an internal compass that doesn't allow them to tolerate certain behaviors, no matter who it's coming from. This isn't about pride or ego, it's about principle. They live by a set of rules that prioritize self-respect, mental peace, and independence. And once you break those rules, it's not just a personal offense, it's a breach of the trust that the Sigma rarely gives in the first place. People often mistake Sigma males as loners or cold-hearted individuals, but in reality, they're some of the most calculated and self-aware people you'll ever meet. Their emotional distance isn't detachment, it's discipline. They've learned through experience and observation that tolerance for toxic behavior is a fast track to chaos. They don't just talk about boundaries, them, with quiet confidence and no need for explanation. So if you find yourself in the company of a Sigma and want to stay there, know this. Respect is not optional. It's the currency of connection in his world. Coming up next, we're diving into the 8 specific things Sigma males will never tolerate from anyone. Stay tuned. Number 1. Fake respect and forced politeness. Here's the thing, a Sigma male doesn't need a smile if it's hiding a knife. He doesn't care for polished politeness that conceals a hidden agenda. In fact, he'd rather be hit with the raw truth than be coddled by sugar-coated deception. That's because Sigmas thrive on clarity, not comfort. They operate in a realm where words must carry the weight of truth, not just the melody of charm. In a world addicted to superficial pleasantries and social masks, Sigma males are a rare breed who instinctively detect what's real and what's rehearsed. They're naturally equipped with a sharp BS detector, an almost uncanny ability to read between the lines. Psychology refers to this as high social intelligence, particularly in the form of cognitive empathy. Unlike emotional empathy, which makes one feel others' emotions, cognitive empathy allows a person to understand the motives and intentions behind someone's actions. Sigmas don't just hear what you say, they observe how you say it, watch what you do, and notice whether those two things line up. If your actions contradict your words, he won't confront you with drama or create a scene, he'll simply detach. Quietly, permanently, that's the Sigma way. People pleasers and overcharmers rarely survive long in a Sigma's orbit. Why? Because the constant need for validation and approval disrupts the natural independence that defines a Sigma's world. Sigmas don't care if you like them, they care if you respect them. And respect, in their book, is never handed out for free. It must be earned through integrity and consistency. Courtesy that's just performance doesn't impress them, it irritates them. You can be imperfect, messy, even disagreeable. But as long as you're real, a Sigma will respect you for it. What truly turns a Sigma off is inauthenticity. Fake laughs, forced compliments, manipulative friendliness, these are like static noise to his frequency. He doesn't expect perfection, he expects sincerity. That's why Sigmas are often drawn to people who are unapologetically themselves. Even if you're blunt or rough around the edges, your honesty is refreshing. But once he senses you're wearing a mask, you're already fading into the background. To a Sigma male, authenticity isn't optional. It's the only language he speaks. Number 2, drama and gossip. If you ever want to see a Sigma vanish like Houdini, start talking about what Sarah said about Mike, who cheated on Lisa with Karen. That's the fastest way to lose him, because Sigmas don't do soap operas. They don't get tangled in emotional theatrics or the swirling vortex of gossip that keeps so many people mentally exhausted and emotionally spent. To a Sigma male, drama is the equivalent of junk food for the soul. It's fast, it's tempting, and it provides a short burst of excitement. But in the end, it leaves you sluggish, empty, and spiritually undernourished. Sigmas thrive on peace and clarity. They've learned that feeding off chaos doesn't just kill productivity, it warps your perception and drains your focus. While the average person may find gossip entertaining or even a way to bond socially, Sigmas see it for what it truly is, a distraction from purpose. Research even backs this up. Constant exposure to social drama has been linked to increased stress, anxiety, and even lower self-esteem. Sigmas are wired to protect their inner energy from that nonsense. They know that every minute spent dissecting someone else's messy life is a minute stolen from their own goals, dreams, and mental clarity. These men are builders of ideas, businesses, skills, and personal growth. Their minds are constantly occupied with the question, how can I improve this? Whether it's themselves, their craft, or the world around them, they're locked into a mindset of elevation, not degradation. So if someone brings drama to the table, a Sigma will quietly excuse himself. No confrontation, no explanation, just silence. Because in his world, time is sacred and peace is non-negotiable. You'll never catch a Sigma choosing gossip over growth or pettiness over purpose. If your life runs on chaos, attention-seeking, and who said what to whom, don't expect him to sit through the show. He's already left the theater. Number 3, manipulation, emotional blackmail, guilt trips, passive-aggressive games. These are manipulation tactics often used to gain control in relationships, whether romantic, professional, or social. But try pulling any of that on a Sigma male and you'll quickly find yourself talking to empty space. Sigmas are masters of silent exits. You won't get drama, confrontation, or a long-winded explanation, just their sudden and complete disappearance. That's not arrogance, it's self-respect. See, Sigma males are lone wolves by nature. They're not looking to be saved or soothed. They're not clinging to relationships for validation or security. Unlike those who dread solitude, Sigmas actually recharge in it. That's their edge. Emotional manipulation thrives on dependency, on someone needing approval, affection, or reassurance so badly that they'll tolerate mistreatment to keep the peace. But a Sigma, he's already at peace on his own, so if you try to play mind games with him, he simply opts out. No fuss, no warning, just gone. It's not that Sigmas are cold or heartless, quite the opposite. They often care deeply, but their self-worth isn't tied to others' behavior. They've learned that arguing with manipulative people only fuels the fire. Instead of reacting, they remove themselves. This mindset is backed by psychology too. Studies show that emotionally intelligent individuals, those with high self-awareness and self-regulation, are far less likely to be swayed by guilt or gaslighting. Sigma males embody that emotional intelligence. They see through the smokescreen, recognize the patterns, and don't stick around for round 2. What really sets them apart is their ability to detach with dignity. They don't retaliate. They don't try to out-manipulate the manipulator. They just walk away, leaving behind a powerful message, I choose peace over drama. That's their strength. In a world where many are pulled into toxic dynamics out of fear of being alone, the Sigma male's solitude is his superpower. Try to control him, and you'll find he's already 10 steps ahead, moving in silence, unmoved by guilt, and untouchable by games. Number 4, lack of boundaries. Call him cold, call him distant, call him mysterious. But here's the truth. The Sigma male has walls, not fences, and you don't get in unless you're invited. He doesn't build these walls to push people away out of arrogance or superiority. He builds them because solitude is his sanctuary, and peace is a currency he refuses to waste. To outsiders, this might seem harsh, even unfriendly, But what they fail to realize is that the Sigma male isn't interested in small talk, emotional manipulation, or performative relationships. He values depth, honesty, and autonomy, and anyone who threatens that equilibrium is met with the quiet force of his boundaries. He guards his time, energy, and peace like it's sacred. Why? Because it is. In a world that thrives on noise, validation, and overstimulation, the Sigma male retreats inward. Psychological studies show that introverted personality types, particularly those resembling the Sigma archetype, require extended alone time to recharge and function at their best. This isn't some trendy self-care ritual, it's a neurological necessity. When people invade his space without permission, constantly demand his presence, or refuse to acknowledge his need for independence, he doesn't argue or lash out. He disappears, not out of spite, but self-preservation. If you constantly barge into his life, demand attention, overstep limits, or ignore his no, expect to meet his silence. Not the cold shoulder kind of silence, but the kind that comes with doors quietly shutting and locks clicking into place. It's not personal, it's principle. The Sigma male doesn't beg to be understood, he doesn't chase validation, and he certainly doesn't entertain chaos disguised as closeness. His silence is his final answer. Boundaries aren't optional, they're survival. In a world that rarely respects the need for space or individuality, the Sigma male has learned that drawing the line isn't just about protecting himself, it's about preserving his ability to think, create, and live on his own terms. You either respect that, or you find yourself on the other side of his wall, wondering why he vanished without a word. The truth is, he didn't vanish. He simply chose peace over pressure and clarity over confusion. That's not cold, that's controlled. Number 5, neediness and emotional dependency. Let's be honest, Sigma males aren't babysitters for fragile egos. They aren't wired to cater to constant emotional maintenance or the exhausting tug-of-war of neediness. For a Sigma, energy is sacred. Every interaction is a transaction, and when it comes to emotional energy, they don't spend it where there's no return. Clinginess, codependency, or emotional meltdowns over an unread text. That's like trying to plug a USB into a stone wall. It just doesn't connect. Now, don't mistake this for cold-heartedness. Sigma males absolutely care. In fact, when they connect, it's deeply authentic. But their love language isn't constant validation. They thrive in relationships that operate on mutual respect and emotional independence. It's not about being distant, it's about choosing depth over drama. And this mindset is backed by psychological science too. Studies in attachment theory show that secure individuals value autonomy while still forming strong, meaningful bonds. That's exactly the Sigma's lane. Sigma males are deeply drawn to strength, specifically the kind that comes from within. They admire people who are self-reliant, those who carry themselves with quiet confidence and navigate life without needing a spotlight or applause. Resilience is attractive. Emotional maturity is magnetic. If you fall apart every time they need space, or if your world collapses when a text goes unanswered for an hour, they're going to quietly slip away. You see, Sigmas are minimalists when it comes to relationships, not in terms of affection, but in terms of emotional chaos. They don't want a partner who constantly needs to be rescued. They want someone who can hold their own, who can communicate with honesty but not desperation. There's beauty in being real and raw, in expressing yourself authentically. But when that honesty turns into constant emotional neediness, it becomes an expense the Sigma male isn't willing to carry. Their mindset is simple. They're building a peaceful, purposeful life. If your presence brings peace, you're welcome. But if it brings pressure, you'll find yourself watching them walk away silently and without explanation. Because to a Sigma, peace isn't negotiable. Number 6, groupthink and herd mentality. Here's something that rattles a Sigma to his core: blind conformity. To a Sigma male, the idea of following the herd without thought or reason is not just uncomfortable, it's unacceptable. In a world where most people are wired to seek approval, blend in, and follow trends for the sake of social acceptance, the Sigma male operates like a lone wolf who listens to a different frequency altogether. He's not driven by what's popular, he's driven by what's true. While others nod along just to avoid conflict or to gain favor, the Sigma remains unmoved, even if it means standing alone. He questions the system, he interrogates the norms, he challenges the status quo. And if something doesn't sit right with his internal compass, he doesn't just disagree silently. He quietly withdraws and redirects his energy toward a more authentic path. When society says fit in, the Sigma doesn't just ignore it, he pauses and asks, why? That question, simple as it seems, is the bedrock of his individuality. He's not being difficult for the sake of rebellion. He's being honest. Sigmas don't adopt belief systems because they're convenient. They don't jump on bandwagons or follow fashion trends just to look cool. Instead, they filter everything through a rigorous inner lens. If it doesn't resonate with their core values, they simply won't fake it. And this isn't just about being different, it's about being real. This kind of mindset has historical roots. Some of the world's most influential thinkers, inventors, and revolutionaries embodied the Sigma spirit. From Nikola Tesla, who defied mainstream science, to Steve Jobs, who literally coined the slogan, "Think different," these men didn't conform, they transformed. What makes the Sigma male dangerous to the system is not aggression or ego, it's clarity. He sees through the noise, he doesn't crave attention, but his quiet confidence and refusal to bow to trends make him magnetic. In a world of filters and facades, his authenticity is rare and unsettling to many. So when you see someone who stands apart, questions everything, and refuses to follow blindly, you might be witnessing the Sigma at work. He doesn't need to shout, he doesn't need to prove, he just lives the truth, and that alone is enough to shake the world. Number 7, disrespect. Sigmas may be silent, but they're not spineless. Behind that calm exterior lies an iron will and a deeply rooted principle. Respect is non-negotiable. For Sigma males, it's not about ego or dominance, it's about self-worth. They know their value, and they've worked hard to cultivate a sense of identity that doesn't rely on validation from others. That's why respect isn't something they hope for in a relationship, it's the foundation. Without it, there's no trust, no connection, and certainly no reason to stay. You can disagree with a Sigma male. In fact, he welcomes thoughtful debate. Intellectual stimulation is one of the rare things that actually engages him. He's not intimidated by being challenged, he thrives on it. But there's a hard boundary between disagreement and disrespect. The moment someone crosses that invisible line, whether through condescension, manipulation, or outright insult, the switch flips. And here's where Sigma males differ from others. They don't raise their voice. They don't go to war, they simply vanish. This reaction isn't passive-aggressive, it's strategic. Sigmas are highly self-aware and emotionally disciplined. Psychologically, this is known as strategic withdrawal, a conscious decision to remove oneself from toxic environments rather than engaging in destructive behavior. It's not a weakness, it's self-preservation. While others might waste time arguing or seeking closure, a Sigma cuts the cord instantly. Like a shadow dissolving into the night, he exits with no announcement, no drama, and no second chances. Why does he never come back? Because returning would mean compromising his boundaries. Sigmas live by an internal code that values solitude over chaos, peace over ego, and growth over validation. Once disrespected, trust is shattered beyond repair. Studies in social psychology confirm that individuals with high self-respect are less likely to tolerate repeated offenses. And Sigmas are the epitome of that principle. In a world obsessed with noise, Sigma males move with quiet power. They don't need the last word. They don't need to prove a point. Their absence is the message. And those who once took their silence for weakness soon realize they were in the presence of someone who demanded respect without ever having to ask for it. Number 8, control. You want to lose a Sigma, try to own him, micromanage him, tell him who to be, what to wear, how to act, and who to love. You'll lose him in an instant. That's not drama, that's biology. Sigma males are wired for independence. They don't just value freedom, they breathe it. It's as essential to them as air. The moment they sense a leash, they disappear like smoke in the wind. You can't own what refuses to be possessed. Sigmas were born allergic to cages. This isn't just poetic language, it reflects a real psychological pattern rooted in high levels of self-determination and autonomy. Studies on personality types often associate these traits with introverted, non-conforming individuals who are deeply driven by internal goals rather than external validation. They're not trying to be rebellious, they're just built differently, whether it's a relationship, a job, a social group, or even pressure from family. Sigma males instinctively recoil from anything that feels like control. And here's the thing, Sigmas don't equate love with obedience. They equate love with respect for their space, their mind, and their mission. Tell a Sigma who to be, and you're no longer a partner. You've become a warden. Try to mold him into someone else, and you'll find yourself talking to his back as he walks away. You see, Sigmas seek freedom, not comfort. While others chase security, acceptance, or approval, Sigmas chase purpose and liberty. And if they have to choose between being accepted or being free, they choose freedom. Every time. Not out of pride, but out of principle. They know that compromise on core identity is a slow death of the soul. So if you want to lose a Sigma, control him. But if you want to keep one, understand this. He's not looking for someone to complete him. He's looking for someone who won't try to change him. Sigmas live by a silent code. It's not written, it's lived. They don't waste words. They don't fake feelings. They don't tolerate nonsense. And that's what makes them powerful. If you're tired of playing the social game, of tolerating less than you deserve, of being someone you're not, maybe you've got a Sigma inside you waiting to rise. So start setting your boundaries. Walk away from what drains you. Be unapologetically authentic. Because power begins where tolerance ends. Sigmas, if this resonated with you, hit that like button, subscribe, and become part of a community that values depth over noise, strength over show, and freedom over fitting in. Let's keep growing. Let's keep rising. Stay safe and stay Sigma. Sigmas, picture this. It's a crowded office party. Loud music, fake laughs, people clinking glasses over shallow conversations. Everyone's trying to impress someone, but there you are, in the corner, scanning the room with quiet confidence. You didn't come to network. You didn't come to pretend. You came because a colleague insisted, and now, 10 minutes in, you're already counting the seconds until you can leave without raising eyebrows. And that's where it hits you again. This world, it makes no sense to someone like you. You observe everything, but engage with little. While others get high off validation, you operate on independence. They trade authenticity for applause. You protect your peace like a vault. Society calls it antisocial, but for you, it's clarity. You don't avoid people because you can't connect. You avoid the noise because you already see through it. While most are wired for tribe and status, your compass points inward. That's not rebellion, that's evolution. Being a Sigma male isn't just a label. It's a lived experience that flips the social hierarchy upside down. Studies in personality psychology show that while alpha and beta behaviors are deeply rooted in group dynamics and social reward systems, Sigma types fall outside that loop entirely. They're lone operators, thriving on autonomy, minimalism, and meaning. You don't chase trends, cliques, or crowns. You walk your own path, even if it's uphill and unpaved. So today, we're diving deep into 7 things that make absolutely zero sense to Sigma males. Things society worships, but you silently reject. Whether it's the obsession with status, the addiction to small talk, or the cult of conformity, we're peeling back the layers with a blend of wit, wisdom, and unapologetic truth. Let's dive in. This one's for the outliers. Number 1, social climbing for validation. Sigmas look at the whole social climbing thing and go, wait, people actually waste energy doing this. While the world rushes to collect followers, business cards, and status symbols, the Sigma male stands back, unimpressed, unaffected, and unmoved. Society has built an entire ecosystem around validation. You're taught that your worth increases with proximity to power, popularity, and prestige. That if you shake hands with the right people, attend the right events, and wear the right mask, you'll finally make it. But Sigmas, they see through that illusion like a pane of glass. The truth is, validation, especially the kind built on shallow metrics, is like junk food. It might give you a quick dopamine rush, but it's empty. It doesn't nourish the soul or satisfy the mind. Sigma males reject this high-calorie, low-substance way of living. Instead of climbing a corporate ladder just to impress others, they build their own blueprint, carve out their own path, and define success on their own terms. They don't orbit power. They become power in solitude. Ironically, the more people chase clout and connection, the more they lose connection with themselves. Studies in psychology have shown that extrinsic goals like fame, money, and image are linked to higher levels of anxiety and lower well-being. Meanwhile, intrinsic goals like purpose, autonomy, and mastery are where true satisfaction lies. And guess who lives in that space? The Sigma. He doesn't walk into a room hoping to be liked. He walks in with such clarity and calm that people can't help but notice. While others scramble for seats at the table, he builds his own table, or better yet, enjoys his meal alone in peace. Sigmas may walk alone, but it's not loneliness. It's freedom. It's purpose. It's anchoring your identity in who you are, not who you're trying to impress. So the next time someone nudges you to network more, just smile and say, I'm not trying to be liked. I'm trying to be legendary. Because legends aren't born from people-pleasing, they're forged in solitude, discipline, and truth. Number 2, small talk over substance. If there's one thing that makes a Sigma male want to vanish into the woods and live among the trees, it's small talk. You know the kind, those painfully shallow exchanges that go nowhere fast. Nice weather today? How about that game last night? Busy weekend ahead? For the average person, this might be polite social grease. But for the Sigma male, it's like spiritual sandpaper, grating, dry, and completely pointless. Sigmas aren't trying to be rude, it's just that their minds are wired for more. They're analytical thinkers and independent souls who find meaning in depth. While others may find comfort in casual banter, Sigmas feel like they're being trapped in a loop of meaningless repetition. For them, every word exchanged should carry weight, spark curiosity, or unlock a new perspective. Conversations about the cosmos, human psychology, philosophy, or even hypothetical theories about time travel, these are the real treasures. Neurologically, this actually aligns with what science tells us about deep thinkers. Studies suggest that individuals with introspective and analytical tendencies have more activity in the brain's default mode network, regions linked to imagination, future planning, and deep reflection. So when a Sigma is stuck in a chat about someone's weekend barbecue plans, you can almost hear that network screaming for stimulation. That's why, when you see a Sigma male nodding during a surface-level conversation, don't be fooled. He might look present, but trust me, mentally he's already 40 years into the future or decoding the psychology behind your word choice. Sigmas are the kind of people who'd rather have one unforgettable, mind-bending conversation in a lifetime than 1,000 forgettable ones in a week. This trait isn't arrogance, it's a hunger for meaning. So the next time you're around a Sigma and you want to connect, skip the weather report. Ask about consciousness, society, or the meaning of life. Then watch as their eyes light up and the real conversation begins. Number 3, posting everything online. Ah yes, the digital circus where people document their lunch, flex their outfits, and perform happiness for strangers. The online world has become a stage, and every scroll reveals another act, curated, filtered, and exaggerated for effect. It's not inherently bad. After all, technology connects us in powerful ways, but to the Sigma male, the spectacle of it all borders on absurd. He watches this performance from a distance, not with disdain, but with detached amusement, like an ancient monk observing a parade of illusions. Sigmas aren't technophobes. They'll use a smartphone, browse the web, maybe even drop a clever post now and then. But what they do is beg for validation. The dopamine-chasing culture of likes, shares, and algorithm-driven approval, that's a trap they see right through. Studies in psychology have shown how social media stimulates the brain's reward system in the same way as addictive substances, yet Sigmas have trained their minds to resist that pull. Their worth doesn't hinge on heart emojis or follower counts. Instead, Sigmas find their validation in the quiet moments, when they've mastered a new skill, completed a personal challenge, or simply sat in stillness and felt content. They understand what philosopher Blaise Pascal meant when he said, all of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone. Solitude isn't a punishment for them. It's a proving ground. To a Sigma, posting every detail of life to convince others of your value is like shouting into the void and hoping the void claps. It's performative, exhausting, and unnecessary. Why broadcast your every move when the real treasure lies in the doing, not the documenting? While others are busy capturing their lives for strangers to see, the Sigma is out there living his unbothered, unfiltered, and unapologetically off-grid. He knows that authenticity isn't found in pixels or hashtags, but in the choices you make when no one's watching. Number 4, competing for female attention. This is where things get comically absurd. Imagine a group of men practically doing backflips in a gym, not for fitness, not for health, but purely to flex for attention. One's flexing his biceps in the mirror, another's snapping selfies next to rented Lamborghinis, and a third is rehearsing the cheesiest pickup lines ever uttered since the dawn of cringeworthy romance. Some of them even go so far as to sabotage each other, cutting down their own friends just to gain the upper hand with a woman. It's like watching a modern gladiator arena, only instead of swords and shields, it's protein shakes, gold watches, and desperation. Then enter the Sigma male. No grand entrance, no cologne that precedes him by 5 feet, no loud conversations to get noticed. He simply walks into the room, sits down, and observes. He doesn't compete for the spotlight. The spotlight, precisely because he's not chasing it. And that's what makes women turn their heads. It's not because he's doing something, it's because he's doing. He isn't performing, he isn't strategizing. He's just there, completely at ease with himself. That calm self-assurance is magnetic in a world addicted to noise and approval. Psychologically speaking, this is known as the contrast effect. In a sea of people clamoring for validation, the one who remains unaffected stands out. It's also tied to what behavioral scientists call the law of effort justification. People tend to value what is hard to get. And a Sigma's attention, that's a rare currency. While others shout to be heard, the Sigma whispers, and the whisper gets amplified. His quiet confidence creates a mystery, a kind of gravitational pull. He doesn't ask to be noticed, yet he always is. And ironically, this lack of neediness is exactly what makes others chase him. So while the world keeps spinning on the hamster wheel of flashy distractions, the Sigma sits still and somehow outpaces them all. Number 5, worshipping celebrities and influencers. Here's one that absolutely fries the Sigma brain: celebrity worship. In a world obsessed with fame and followers, millions of people fall under the spell of celebrity culture. They copy outfits worn by their favorite stars, imitate their mannerisms, quote their social media posts like gospel, and even shed tears over celebrity breakups as if they were personally involved. It's a strange modern-day ritual where attention replaces authenticity and popularity is mistaken for wisdom. But for the Sigma male, this kind of behavior doesn't just seem irrational, it's borderline comical. Sigmas operate on an entirely different wavelength. They aren't wired to idolize others for superficial reasons. To a Sigma, true admiration stems from depth of character, not the size of one's fan base. They admire integrity, independence, and originality, not the ability to trend on a timeline or get papped at some exclusive party. Sigmas understand that just because someone is well-known doesn't mean they are well-rounded. In fact, the louder the crowd cheers for someone, the more skeptical the Sigma becomes. What did they do to deserve this level of adoration? Instead of scrolling through celebrity updates or mimicking influencers, Sigmas channel their energy inward. They are their own role models. Growth for them is an internal pursuit, not a competition for the spotlight. They ask questions like, am I better than I was yesterday? Not, how many people liked my latest post? This mindset allows them to remain grounded while the rest of the world gets caught in a digital tornado of envy and validation. Take Clint Eastwood, for example. A real-life Sigma icon. You wouldn't find him thirsting over fame or posting selfies for clout. Eastwood built his legacy on grit, not glitter. His stoic characters and real-life demeanor embodied that rare combination of strength and silence. You get the feeling he'd rather ride solo into the desert than chase attention in a room full of flashing cameras. That's the Sigma code: action over applause, values over vanity. In a culture that constantly tells you who to admire, Sigma males hit the mute button. They don't just reject idol worship, they redefine what it means to be admirable. It's not about who shouts the loudest, it's about who walks with purpose, stays true to themselves, and makes silence look powerful. While the crowd chases stars, Sigmas become the unseen force, charting their own constellations. Number 6, forced teamwork and fake collaboration. Let's talk about the glorified maze of corporate nonsense. Team-building exercises, trust falls, 2 truths and a lie icebreakers, group brainstorms with whiteboards and colorful sticky notes, Zoom calls where 12 people take turns rewording the same sentence while the only person who actually has a solution sits on mute, waiting for the meeting to end. These rituals are often paraded as signs of modern workplace innovation, but for Sigma males, they're just noise, organized chaos disguised as productivity. Sigmas aren't against people, they're just against pointless performance. They operate with laser focus in silence, thrive in solitude, and believe in the power of self-reliance. Give them a mission, some space, and the freedom to work their way, and they'll execute it flawlessly, without needing a team chant or a post-it war room. Where others need validation, Sigmas need clarity. Where others seek consensus, sigmas seek results. This isn't arrogance, it's efficiency. And that's what corporations often fail to understand. The modern work culture often idolizes collaboration to the point of dysfunction. Studies in organizational psychology have shown that excessive collaboration can actually reduce productivity due to social loafing, groupthink, and time wasted in unnecessary meetings. But the system keeps reinforcing it because it likes progress. Sigmas see through that illusion. They understand that not every task requires a village. In fact, some tasks are too delicate, too focused, too creative, or too precise to survive the compromise of committee thinking. So when a Sigma rolls his eyes at the next mandatory fun event or the 10th brainstorming session for a decision that should have been made yesterday, it's not cynicism, it's wisdom. They've realized what many still refuse to accept. Too many cooks don't just spoil the broth. They burn down the kitchen, spill the ingredients, and then schedule another meeting to discuss cleanup. A Sigma would rather take the recipe, head to a quiet kitchen, and whip up a gourmet dish solo. No fluff, no fuss, just mastery in motion. They know when to work with others, but more importantly, they know when not to. In a world that rewards noise over results, the Sigma stands as a quiet rebel, proving that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is to simply get the job done, alone. Number 7, living for the weekend. Here's the final absurdity. People dragging themselves out of bed on Monday, faces dull, energy low, already counting down the hours until Friday evening. It's become a cultural norm to loathe the work week and worship the weekend. Memes celebrate it, coffee mugs groan with it, and office chatter revolves around surviving until Saturday. But to a Sigma male, this is nothing short of lunacy. It's a system that makes no sense. Why would anyone willingly design a life they constantly need to escape from? Sigma males question everything, especially routines that everyone else accepts blindly. They see the traditional 9-to-5 grind not as a rite of passage, but as a trap, an endless loop of delayed gratification. Why endure 5 days of burnout just to earn 2 days of semi-freedom? This math doesn't add up to a Sigma. It's like exchanging the majority of your life for brief glimpses of joy. That's not living, it's surviving. Instead, Sigma's craft lives with intention. They build careers around passions, not paychecks. They reject mindless hustle and seek meaningful productivity. Studies have shown that people with greater autonomy in their work report higher job satisfaction, reduced stress levels, and better overall well-being. Sigma males embody this principle. They don't compartmentalize their joy to weekends. They weave purpose into their everyday. Whether it's a Tuesday morning hike, a midweek creative project, or learning something new on a quiet Thursday night, every moment matters. The irony is, while most people wait for the weekend to feel alive, Sigmas are fully awake every day. Their schedule doesn't control them, they control their schedule. They've stepped off the hamster wheel and carved out a path where fulfillment isn't postponed. And here's the real kicker. They're not longing for Friday night to breathe. They already own every sunrise. Each morning is not just a beginning, it's an opportunity to move in alignment with their goals, values, and vision. While others are hitting snooze and dreading the commute, Sigmas are already ahead, mentally, spiritually, and often literally. In a world that celebrates escape, Sigmas choose engagement. They don't live for the weekend, they live with purpose. So Sigmas, here's the raw truth. This world may never make sense to you, and that's your superpower. You weren't made to fit in. You were forged to stand out. While the masses chase trends, approval, and the illusion of belonging, you instinctively move in the opposite direction. You question what others accept. You walk away when most would cling. This is not defiance for its own sake, it's clarity. A clarity that comes from seeing the world for what it is. Loud, chaotic, and often hollow. But here's the educational twist. The very traits that isolate you are the same ones that have defined history's most legendary minds. Nikola Tesla, Bruce Lee, Steve Jobs, they were all misunderstood, all intensely focused, all lone wolves who shook the world. What set them apart wasn't just their genius, it was their refusal to conform. They thrived because they leaned into their unique wiring, not despite it. In psychology, this is often associated with the concept of high self-monitoring versus low self-monitoring. Sigmas fall into the latter. They don't adjust who they are just to blend in with the environment. Instead, they bring the environment to them or move through it untouched. That's why when you walk into a room, people notice. Not because you're loud, but because your silence speaks volumes. You're not seeking validation. You already know your worth. This is why embracing your difference isn't a rebellion, it's alignment. Elevating your path means choosing depth over noise, solitude over approval, and mastery over popularity. You're not here to follow the world's blueprint. You're here to draw a new one with sharp edges and unshakable resolve. So stay misunderstood. It means you're ahead of your time. Stay dangerous, not to others, but to the status quo. Stay uncommon, because average was never the goal. If that hit deep, hit that like button, subscribe, and join the pack. We're not just building a community. We're creating a silent revolution. Stay true, stay sharp, stay Sigma.